Today, I'm excited to share with you some of our latest research of the procurement profession within Australia. And we termed this research Procurement as the Guiding Light. It talks about navigating market challenges, innovation, and value for money, and all through an improvements to procurement planning and those early stages of the procurement process. What is it that you can do there that sets up a contract and a contractual relationship with your service provider for success? My name is Stefan Gassner. I'm the Managing Director of Grosvenor Performance Group, and I undertake our annual procurement research. Please feel free to connect on LinkedIn so we can stay in touch, and also feel free to ask any questions about our research and the presentation today through that forum as well. At Grosvenor, we do three things. We help public sector organizations to deliver programs, services, and contracts. We also help property owners and occupiers of large property portfolios improve the way that they manage their property portfolio. And of course, within the procurement advisory practice, we do help our clients drive additional performance through the way that they undertake procurement and also uplift the maturity of their own internal procurement function. Enough about us. Now about you, and why would you bother with procurement planning? Why would you invest in those early stages of the procurement lifecycle when we all know that that is taking longer than you would have liked? We know that you've always needed to be out to market yesterday. So why take a step back and think about the problem a bit longer and provide more resources into the planning in those early stages of the procurement cycle? Well, this hopefully gives a bit of an answer to that rhetorical question. Think about where you would rather sit, you and your procurement team. Within your organization, is procurement seen as a set of rules and templates? Is it rather reactive and compliance focused? Is it something that's done by a centralized team that avoids risk and it just takes very long? Or is procurement in your organization, or probably where you want it to be, more around finding a path that avoids trouble for the organization, but also probably for the individuals involved? Is it planned ahead? Is it proactive? Is it not just focused on getting this specific tender, this specific request for quote out to market? Are we actually managing risk rather than just avoiding the risk? Is it something that the whole organization is involved in? Rather than just a small subset of procurement professionals. I think the coloring of this slide already sort of presupposes the answer to the question. Of course, it should be box B, but how do you get there? That's what we want to talk about in the next couple of minutes in this presentation. Based on our research and experience working with procurement professionals over the last 25 years here in Australia, we find that there's three key elements that make procurement planning successful. The first dimension is leadership and strategy. So those organizations that are successful take a proactive, strategic approach to procurement planning and continuous improvement. They also, the second dimension, take into consideration their business and the stakeholders therein, as well as the industry and the engagement with that industry. So they have a clear and evolving engagement model with internal and external stakeholders, which adapts to the business needs and then ultimately through that delivers results. Governance and assurance rounds off the magic three. And in governance and assurance, it's all around having a robust governance framework with the systems and structures, but also the tools in place, and those match the needs of the organization. So again, there might be a small organization working in a not so regulated industry that has very different needs to a large organization working in a regulated industry, such as governments in Australia. Let me have a closer look at those three elements with you. Now, in the first dimension, the leadership and the strategy, there's clear characteristics that a high maturity organization has. So, for example, high maturity organizations have a multi-year procurement plan. They know what procurements are coming up and what decisions they will make about those contracts when they're up for renewal. They do review regularly whatever is needed to achieve the organizational goals, and they are also closely aligned with what they're doing within the procurement function with those organizational goals. They do keep those insights front of mind so that the insights help them to improve the way they do procurement, but most importantly, also what they do within those contracts that are ultimately established. Low maturity organizations, on the other hand, lack those comprehensive plans. Sometimes they're just missing some contracts, or they're not forward-looking enough. We're only looking a month ahead rather than a couple of years, and they only improve whatever is in the specifications or in the contracts themselves reactively rather than in a planned manner. Around the governance and assurance, the high maturity organizations are those that integrate risk management into procurement policies and processes. Not just a risk register at the very start, but one that is consistently updated right throughout the process with a keen eye on what could go wrong, but also what could go right, and how do we make sure that that actually is managed appropriately. Compliance is achieved with minimal fuss. It's almost something that happens along the way because we've got good and tested processes and also good training and understanding within the organization of what needs to get done. Low maturity organizations, on the other hand, rely on ad hoc support, and they have not the luxury of using a tailored framework, but just a generic one. When it comes to business and industry engagement, the high maturity organizations plan at the category level. So not just for a single contract that's up for renewal. They do look through a whole category of contracts that, for example, all deal with, say, property, and then make decisions at that category level. Do we just want to have a single service provider that provides all the contracts around property? Or would we like to have several providers that combined look at how we deliver facilities management and asset management, for example? High maturity organizations also use the knowledge within their organization and through the supply chain to foster innovation. They understand that the market has a lot of other clients and they have seen a lot, and they are probably the experts of how things can be done better, and they are able to encourage and bring those innovations into their organization. They also leverage those strong supplier relationships that they have built over years, rather than just letting them get away with whatever they want to be doing. Low mature organizations, on the other hand, again, are reactive, and they do lack a coordinated market engagement. They might do it ad hoc, but again, it is just not deliberate. We looked into the Australian organizations and how they are faring against these three elements and how well they're doing in their procurement planning as a result. So what does that research say? And we surveyed 81 organizations last year in September, and this is what we found. First of all, planning is patchy. Now, that's probably to be expected. It's not the first time that you would have heard about this. It's just interesting the magnitude that we have found here. So most organizations do not have a long-term procurement plan. 37% of those organizations we asked said they do not have a long-term procurement plan. And long-term procurement plan is nothing that is rocket science. It's a spreadsheet that lists all of the contracts when they expire, and then making a decision what happens with them when they expire. Should we renew them, retender them, combine them with something else? Just some sort of high-level strategy is in place for those contracts. And we found that, again, 37% have none that extend beyond the next 3 months. Market engagement, as almost a result, is therefore reactive. So only few organizations actually scan the horizon or talk to suppliers. They gather market insights unless there's an immediate need. And again, that is something that modern day category management, just good supply chain management, would be consistently doing. That's the core expectation of a procurement function, that they know what is happening in the most important categories that our organization is purchasing from. But only few organizations actually do that. And again, it is the magnitude that we have found here in this research that is just so astounding. 80% of the participants in the research only engage the market when a specific need arises. They do not regularly talk to suppliers or those that knock on their door to sell their wares, they do not talk to them. They do not use the opportunity to understand something about the market that may have shifted. Innovation is rare. Only 25% of organizations encourage new ideas or try different approaches. That is 1 in 4 organizations. Everyone else is just happy to continue doing whatever they have been doing before. We found that governance is a strength across the board, but certainly not everywhere. Those large teams, public sector organizations tend to have very solid frameworks for risk and compliance. Small organizations don't. And then last but not least, there's always a conversation within procurement circles. What is the best service delivery model? Is it a centralized team, a decentralized function? We found in this space, the centralized teams do better overall when it comes to procurement planning. So organizations that have a dedicated procurement team score higher across all of those 3 areas that we looked at. At Grosvenor, we specialize on public sector procurement. We're experts in helping government organizations improve the way that they do procurement. And we also help them in a team-on-demand setting outsource their procurement needs and help them with the end-to-end procurement process. So therefore, we always include questions that are specific to the public sector in our research. We did find when it comes to market engagement, to innovation and to category management, that the public sector and the private sector fundamentally differ in how they approach these 3 things. We first found that when it comes to market engagement, public sector teams are very reactive. 97% do not engage the market beyond the immediate procurement. Only when they have a tender or a request for quote out to market, they are engaging with the market. 97%. In the private sector, we found that 40% of organizations gather market intelligence quite regularly, and that actually informs decisions and builds better supplier relationships. That is certainly possible in the public sector. I know there's always conversation around probity, but there's a lot of things that can be done anyway if we only tried. Related to this is innovation. The private sector is way more likely to seek out and embed innovation. So 30% of the private sector organizations said that they actively pursue innovation, and 12% even say that it is part of their culture to do so. 87% of public sector organizations say that there's only limited scope for innovation, or that it's not seen as procurement's job. When it comes to category management, 1/4 of private sector organizations have quite a mature and proactive approach that they can point to demonstrable outcomes when it comes to category management. 2% of organizations in the public sector have such a proactive approach, and many public sector teams leave planning for high value or high risk procurements to the business areas. There's little coordination between those business areas. So really, if you ask me, as a public sector organization, how can we improve the way that we do procurement as an organization? These are the 3 things. Improve how you engage with the market, and don't just do it when there's an immediate need. Consider innovation a core job of procurement. How can we make sure that we're not just minimizing risks, but also seeking opportunities to get best bang for buck? How can we get category management more established within public sector organizations and not just focus on a specific contract right here and right now, but look at bundles of contracts and how can we improve service delivery across this bundle? Why is it that many of us struggle with procurement planning day in and day out? Well, of course, it's all easier said than done. And of course, I want to talk to as many service providers as I can in the market, potential service providers out there, and see what innovation they can give us. But of course, there's always constraints that we have, such as chronic resource constraints, skill shortages, and role overload. That's what our sample of organizations we spoke to said is their most important concern. There's always systems that hold us back as well. And the rest of the business that does not engage with procurement early enough. So we don't have physically the time to go out to the market and do more deeper market research. There's insufficient senior support or mandate for procurement, and limited knowledge about procurement and capability across the wider organizations when it comes to procurement and contract management. None of these are new, none of these are unknown. Many organizations work on them, but they still, in 2026, limit the effectiveness and the efficiency, of course, of procurement. That all pushed aside, what is it that we can do tomorrow to improve the way that we do procurement, and specifically procurement planning? A lot of procurement is not rocket science, so neither are the improvements that you can put in place today. You would start with a simple forward-looking 12-month procurement pipeline plan. Again, it is a simple spreadsheet that has a row for each of the contracts that will expire in the next 12 months, or that we do already know need to be put in place for in the next 12 months because there's a new requirement within the business. Check on that regularly, have team meetings around that, but also most importantly, use it to engage with your stakeholders in the wider business. Discuss with them the list, validate the list with them, add additional contracts to them, and just use this to plan your pipeline. So procurement is not as reactive, and you actually have the ability to plan for resourcing as well. Make time for regular conversations with suppliers in your key categories. And again, for the public sector folk, that might be interesting just to talk to existing suppliers. There's no probity concerns doing that. But certainly it is interesting to see how they feel like it is to work with your organization. Where are improvement possibilities? Where can innovation play a role? Use what you learn to inform decisions and build stronger supplier relationships. Third, create space for experimentation. Even small changes can make a big difference. You could put in place with every supplier, every key supplier that you have, just a question at the end of the next meeting. What is it that we can do better? What is it that you could offer us that would make us better as an organization, better able to service our own clients? This will certainly take a shift in culture, and also a bit of persistence, but it does pay off in the end, because again, you are leading your suppliers, and if you do show that leadership and show how important it is for you to gain improvements across your contracts, suppliers will pick up on that and offer it to you more proactively going forward. If you are a smaller team of procurement, then you should focus on building quite basic structures that fit your size and needs. This makes sure that the light reaches all corners so that everyone knows what procurement can do and how they can engage with you. And just do a bit of the internal marketing that the people in the wider organization know what procurement does, what it can do for them, and how to best engage with you. Now, we have also seen in this research that decentralized or hybrid models struggle a bit more than centralized procurement teams when it comes to improving the way that they do procurement planning. So try to find ways to share your expertise and keep everyone aligned so no one is left navigating alone. Again, look at opportunities to talk at town halls, to be in the internal newsletter, to have training sessions. Procurement is a bit of a black box for many people in the wider business. Try to introduce what procurement can do to the wider business. And again, this then fits into the first point that we had here. Just getting that procurement pipeline plan together gives you almost that excuse to talk to the wider business about what procurement is, what it could do, and and how we can together be successful for the organization. Now, we've put all of that together for you in an easily digestible ebook, and that obviously goes into a fair bit more detail than we had time for today in this presentation. What you can do here is just scan the QR code, and then you can leave your email there and download your free copy of this ebook. And you can access this through our website, of course, as well. What you find inside is way more detailed, industry-specific research and findings, but also recommendations of what you can do as of tomorrow for how you can improve your procurement planning and achieve more for your organization. I often get asked about the demographics of the organizations that we have surveyed. Again, this is something that we publish in our ebook. I have copied it here as well. You can clearly see that there is smaller procurement teams that look after a smaller annual procurement volume, but then also have less staff. However, we also have a lot of larger organizations in here, and about a third of organizations were from the private sector in here as well. If you do have any more questions, of course, please feel free to reach out to myself or to any of our team in here, Nick and Ricardo. We've got a lot of experts around various aspects of procurement. Please do reach out and ask any questions you may have. With that, I thank you very much for. I'll just go back here in case you want to go back to the ebook again to download that. Thank you very much for your attention today. Really appreciate you dialing in. I look forward to having further conversations. And also, if you are keen to participate in future research, please make sure to do that, because I do thank everyone who completes our surveys. It is a couple of minutes out of everyone's day. And I know there's a lot of research out there, so I do really appreciate people participating so we can share those sorts of insights annually. Thank you very much.